The first question I have for you, Elie, is throughout your career, you've been on both sides of the fence. You've worked for global blue chip companies, and you've also launched and exited successfully your startup, local. What has been the secret of your personal success in these two worlds?
And I think being very mindful of the roles you take and how you're creating value, whether it's in a startup and helping a customer or a segment of a market, or in a corporate where you're addressing some institutional challenges or delivering some real value to their core goals, makes a difference when in terms of trying to accelerate a career.
You spend a lot of your time connecting with the startup and innovation ecosystem. What do you look for in these startups, and what is your approach to pick the right ones to work with?
A startup needs to have a great founding team. One sign of real success is there a team around this startup, and do they share the leadership? How do they share the leadership? The other thing that's really important to look for is the maturity of the product or service they're offering. Have they got traction? Have they hit product market fit? And if not, how far off that are they? What's their monetization model? There are some great businesses that haven't figured out their monetization model. Understand your customer, listen to them, and what are their pain points? What are they trying to fix? And how are you addressing that? And if you can create that virtuous cycle and monetize it, then you're onto a winner. So team, really solid operating model, and being able to address real pain points that your customer has.
So large insurance firms generally struggle to scale digital transformation and embed innovation. And startups, they have technological expertise, agility, that creative mindset, and the product most of the times. What adjustments both sides have to make from a way of working standpoint to make sure that these relationships work?
A startup needs to be prepared for the journey, and that means having the resource, the traction, the runway. It can't be dependent on the corporate. It's a rocky road if they're throwing a Hail Mary with one corporate hoping it's going to come through. Because if it doesn't, they're in trouble. So a startup needs to be able to work independently of the corporate and in parallel, because the nature of those relationships is unreliable. But if they get it right, it could be game-changing. On the corporate side, they need to understand that the world does not revolve around them, that their governance may have been appropriate for certain things within their own institution, but they don't necessarily apply outside of their world. Corporates may need to eat some humble pie around the way they do things and be open to being flexible. And startups really need to understand how long and potentially tedious this journey is, and they really have to weigh that out with the benefit that a corporate has.
I believe artificial intelligence is one of the key technologies in terms of enabling new products and services, as well as enhancing the operational efficiency and improving access to data, both structure and unstructured, because we know that's a challenge in insurance. Can you give me a snapshot of the overall impact of artificial intelligence in the insurance business?
AI and machine learning is really interesting. You can put a whole lot of data into it, and it comes out with an answer. And often that answer is pretty accurate, but we don't know how it got to that answer. And that's a real problem in the insurance industry. Because what if that answer is not what you were expecting? Or what if that answer is politically incorrect? That's what the data says. The data has no bias, whether it's political or there's no agenda in the data. Not yet. But how do we marry those learnings with our expectation as an industry, as custodians of some really important functions within society? And there isn't an easy answer to that. And as an industry, we're trying to wrap our head around that. How do we use AI and machine learning, and how do we use this really powerful thing that's growing constantly to help customers do the right thing by customers? But just as importantly, understand how we're coming to these outcomes so we can explain it to customers. So I would say watch this space.
It's 2025 now. How has insurance changed?
Well, I think insurance hopefully by then has completely shaken off this stigma that it's not trying to do the right thing by customers. I'd love customers to look at insurance and say, this is really easy. I understand what I'm getting when I get a policy. I buy it and it's flexible around my terms and conditions. It's flexible around my lifestyle. It doesn't assume I know all these really specific things about locks or compliance of certain things in my house or my car. The perception of distrust has been removed by so much innovation that's driven by wanting to do the right thing by customers, that people have a completely different relationship with insurance. I think for me that'd be a huge win.
That's a very powerful vision, Elie. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you.
But we're not done. We have a surprise. Myth or fact? The insurance industry will be even more heavily disrupted than the banking industry with the arrival of 5G and increasing adoption of AI. Myth or fact?
I'd say fact.
Blockchain still struggling to find a home in insurance.
Actually, I think that's a myth.
Tech giants like Amazon and Google are not a threat to incumbent insurers.
That's a myth.
Is a myth. Yeah. And the last one. Insurance industry is being disrupted by challengers, not incumbents.
I'd say fact.
Thank you very much, Elie, for your time. It was a pleasure.
No worries.
Thank you.